All right, friends, we're back for your favorite weekly podcast show. This is Location Weekly, and it's episode number 578, and we're recording on July the 19th. Hope everyone's well. Brianna, how are you?
I'm good. Can you believe it's already July? I mean, almost August. It's the summer is flying by, but definitely enjoying the heat and humidity here, and just being outside and not waking up quite as early. With the kids not in school and still working from home. So I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm pretty good. It's like you said, it's hot, it's humid, it's sticky up here in Toronto. We're like high 90s every day right now. Very little rain. But yeah, it's good. And funny you say like, we're already like, past the middle of July and I start getting worried when the kids haven't been out that long and I'm already seeing the ads for back to school on TV. So that's, that seems too quick for me, but anyhow. And
Yeah, for
then,
sure.
oh, yeah, did you take in any of the home run derby or the all-star festivities that are going on?
No, I did not get a chance to tune in. I've been kind of like in a bubble lately. I feel like anything that's happening, sports or news, I am just been head down with, between family stuff and work. And sometimes that's a good thing, sometimes it's not. But no, I missed it all. Did you watch it? Did you enjoy?
I watched it. Yeah. So Juan Soto took the title there last night over Rodriguez. So two young guys going at it. But like it's interesting. Like just quick sidebar on Juan Soto. I don't know if you saw. He turned down a 15-year, $440 million contract extension from the Washington Nationals. 15 years, 440 million. Said no. Like that takes some guts. I gotta say. But anyways, and then he goes out and wins the home run derby. But
Was that part of the
um,
plan?
maybe I don't know. But anyhow, we have a show to bring you this week. Four stories as usual, and Brianna's going to start us off with a little bit of an update from a story from a few weeks back. So on that front, you might remember we talked about a company called SocialShelf, or a product called SocialShelf, that was being tested in a number of grocery stores, and the company reached out to us with some updated numbers on the performance of the campaign. So I'll let Ariana kick us off with that.
Yeah, I love this update. Anyways, there's so many times that we're talking about anything, announcement, campaign, product wise that's rolling out. And we're like, yeah, it sounds exciting, but what are the numbers? What does the data say? How are consumers actually interacting with this? What does that look like? And so we had a follow up from this story, which was awesome. Thank you so much for reaching out and sharing that with us, Social Shelf team. But they had some amazing responses here. So in Giant, they had 15 stores that were a sampling with approximately 100 brands. And so through this 90-day trial that they completed in the Giant supermarkets, they garnered more than 30,000 individual page views. And apparently Giant was so happy with the results that they have been finalizing their agreement to move into all 151 stores in the three states and began monetizing it. So that's really a great update, some big stats and numbers there. And in a New Jersey wine and liquor chain called Bourbon Street Wine and Spirits, they had nearly 200 brands, 9 stores during that 90-day trial, that POC, and they had more than 25,000 unique page views. I think that's great. You think of probably like recipes or wine pairings, I'm sure there's a lot that they could do there. And then in Harris Teeter, another supermarket in the Southeast, they had 14 sample stores in that Charlotte market, 100 brands, and gained nearly 2,000 views in the first few days. This was when they had shared that. It was just, they were just kicking it off. So getting started, they're working with nearly 500 brands to date. And Harris Teeter is probably looking to finalize the test and monetize starting in the fourth quarter. So great update from the Social Shelf team. And it's good to see that, what their product sets out to do, it's really working and consumers are really engaging in that environment. So super cool stuff.
Yeah, I think it's great, and I think that that kind of engagement and number of page views that they're driving. I think the brands. If I'm a brand, I'm super happy with that. If I'm the retailer, that's trying to have that brand product on my shelves, and being able to show that I can drive engagement through this type of tech. I think that's a good thing. So I think it's win-win for everybody, and it seems like they're getting the right eyeballs and the right traction on this to grow this forward. So congrats to Social Shelf. All right, let's go into our main stories for this week. I'll let you lead us there as well.
All right. So I really like this story a lot. This one really resonates with me. And it's from a company called Readyland, and they create children's books, but not just any children's books. These are, books that are printed, but they're integrated with smart speakers and voice assistant technology that's powered by Alexa, right? So, as we are in the summer and we're trying to juggle work and we're like, on calls, both of us as parents, and then we have kids' activities and, they're still home sometimes. It's interesting because you're trying to manage, like, how do I make sure they're not on their tablet all day or in front of the TV all day, and really kind of minimize that digital time. So in an effort to create this like screen free or maybe just less screen time summer for kids, Readyland is, creating these books, and they're very interactive. It's very cool. So they allow the kids to do things like talk to the characters, play games or songs, and involve themselves kind of in the story and dive in a little bit more. So they are even enabling a conversation with the characters, so that the characters can talk back to the children using the AI smart tech to respond to the reader's voice. So every time that the kid opens the book, they get this new, unique experience. I know we have a few books that are really fun that are like choose your own adventure, and you get to make a choice and then you go to different pages. But this is a little bit different where you're, having that technology from a sound perspective that's interacting with the kids. So I really, really love this. So an example that they gave that I thought was really interesting is they just released a new edition of Jack and the Beanstalk. And so with the magic spell the reader creates early on in the story, the book's going to change the story outcomes as the book progresses. So these are all available for purchase on Amazon for $14.99 each. I am definitely heading there and investing in one of those later today. I'm so excited. But I think this is really cool. It's simple. It's not anything crazy, but my kids are interacting with Alexa all the time to play this song or ask questions, or when they're curious about random things about like volcanoes that I just don't know the answer to, that's where they head as a source of information. So because they're already used to interacting there, this is like kind of a seamless transition. So getting them more involved with books and reading, especially as I have, a rising kindergartner. She's like, I don't really know how to read that good. So this is something that maybe is a little more interactive and intuitive and can work with, different age groups. So I love it.
Yeah, I think this is fantastic, and I mean, obviously, there's a reason I gave you this story, right? Because you've got those girls, in the age group that this is perfect for. It makes sense, right? And I think it's, if I think back to when my kids were young and reading these types of books, or sitting there reading them to them, I think having a way for these things to be interactive, and the sounds and sound effects, and encouraging them to sort of interact with the characters or understand the characters or identify with the characters in different ways, I think makes a ton of sense. So I really like this. I think it's funny because I was having a conversation with my son yesterday, and he was asking, about, getting a book on Audible, which we have an Audible account, and and it's obviously, it's a full-on novel, and what teenagers read these days, sci-fi and whatnot. But I think even that kind of stuff could be interesting in an interactive, format, right? In some way, and and it kind of, the other thought that kind of ran through my head as you were talking was, at least up here in Toronto where I am, you've got, some of the newer movie theaters now have this, the full on, effects, right? Where you're sitting in the seat, and, the seat is, moving and shaking, and you get the full sound effects and motion effects, and even smell now they're trying to incorporate into like sense into things. So like, you're watching Top Gun Maverick and your like chair is like, shaking with the plane, like, stuff like that. But it's like if you can do the same kind of thing with audio and books and kind of bring that experience to life for them, it resonates a lot more, right? That sensory experience. So I really like it. I think it's great, and I'm excited to hear what your girls think about this as they get to play around with it. So
We'll follow up with that then.
yeah. All right. On to our second story now. So we're going to jump over to Peru with a very interesting, cool campaign that was put together by a retailer there called Oechsle, I think is how you say it. I'm not sure exactly, but it's Oechsle. And this is a fashion retailer based in Peru. And one of the things that they were seeing kind of coming out of COVID is a lot of the live theater performances and venues, obviously struggled, during COVID. And now that things are back, many of them are still not at full capacity. Either not selling tickets for full capacity, or just people haven't returned in full capacity in some way. So together with their ad agency, Fahrenheit DDB, they came up with a pretty cool campaign, which is they basically went to these theaters and they bought up all of the empty seats, like to fill the theater, and then in the empty seats they put mannequins into the seats dressed in their different fashion and clothing that they sell. And then on each of these mannequins, there's a QR code, a shoppable QR code that the audience members who are there can scan, on the mannequins, on the different clothing items, and then buy from there directly. And it kind of serves two purposes. So the one hand, the theater themselves are struggling, in many cases struggling to survive. The people working there, the actors, the performers, the ticket sellers, are struggling as well, because unless it's full, they're not they're not really making money. And so these guys walk in and they just buy up all that inventory, giving them a full theater essentially worth of ticket sales, and at the same time they're finding a different way to drive their product into the minds and the wallets of the people who are sitting there, which I think is super interesting. And they said that previously they would buy sort of an ad placement in the program or something like that, of the show, like the actual bulletin, the program. And they said like this is way more interactive. This is way more engaging and tactile, than just having an ad in the program guide. And it gave them something that that people can interact and actually shop directly, from the QR codes on these mannequins. So I think it's pretty cool, and very creative. So good on Oechsle and Fahrenheit DDB. Any thoughts on this?
No, I think it's super fun. Fun fact, I just did some quick research. So it was founded by a German immigrant. It's actually pronounced Oechsle.
Okay.
Yeah.
My bad.
I mean, I would have gone with Oechsle too. I was like, I don't know. That's not even a, close to a Spanish word or pronunciation. So that's why it is spelled kind of odd. But yes, I think this is great. Like having those interactive experiences, maybe you have downtime, or maybe you're not interested in what's happening because you're there with a significant other or a friend who dragged you there to the show and you were going to be shopping mannequins in between. Or like during intermission or whatever it might be. So I think that it is fun, and I like that it is interactive and they're making good use of it. Again, like you mentioned, looking at a piece of paper or a program and kind of shopping through that is a little antiquated. So having something that's visibly right in front of you kind of as part of the show is a pretty cool experience. Yeah. But finding that sometimes is hard. And this next story is about search, which I think is simple yet very helpful and great for consumers. So Simon Property Group, think of Simon Malls, all of the different property groups that I know there's several here in New York. We had them in the Southeast as well, in Atlanta and all over. But they have launched Simon Search, and this is a search platform that's designed to give us as shoppers the ability to find out what's in stock and across obviously participating retailers and within the Simon property. So this is going to be available through the Simon app, property websites, and then interactive directories that are on property as well. So some of the participating retailers so far are Aeropostale, Urban Outfitters, Anthropologie, Gap, Athleta, Banana Republic, Old Navy, that whole crew, J. Crew, and JCPenney. So I think this is really helpful. Nothing worse than seeing something like online in a store, you go in there, they don't have it, or it says they have it and they don't. I think that you're usually, when we go into a store these days, we are, sometimes we're browsing, but a lot of times we're looking for something very specific. So knowing what's there and what's in stock before you head over there, I think is, so helpful. Again, simple story. They are planning for a broader rollout later this year as they're starting testing right now in 25 Simon retail centers across the U.S. I'm excited about this. This should be the norm. This should be the standard in today's day and age. There's nothing more frustrating than getting somewhere and they just don't have what you need. So simple solution for, a problem that probably many of us have encountered.
Yeah, I think it is simple, and I think it's great. I think it's important. As you said, most of the time we're going in for a specific item in these malls, in these stores, and I think the one thing I like about this is that it's available across the Simon mobile app, across their websites for the different malls. And on the interactive directories, so it's not just, hey, this is only in the app. They've made sure that the capability to search here is across all the different sort of channels that they have that give you access to the stores that are in those properties. I think the other thing that that I'm thinking about as you were kind of sharing this story is, recently we've covered a few other stories about malls that are starting to get into the business of live streaming and kind of bringing the mall, if you will, to the consumer at home. And so, I'm wondering, if you're seeing a Gap store from a Simon Mall, being broadcast, essentially into your home on your browser while you're sitting at your computer at home, having the search capability tied into that to not just like, hey, we're showing you what's going on in the mall right now, in this particular store or this group of stores, but to have the real-time inventory data tied into that, I think would be interesting. So yeah, I like it. I think it's simple. They're testing it at 29 of their retail centers, their malls across the US right now, and looking to go bigger. And I think this makes a ton of sense. I've always been a big proponent of any kind of real-time inventory data that you can make available and surface to the end consumer. Obviously there's been other apps in the past that have tried to do that. But I think this, as a property group, as an owner of retail centers and shopping malls, I think they're well positioned to offer this type of thing. So I like it. Okay, on to our final story. Now, this is an interesting one for me. We're going to talk about a company called Geobroadcast Solutions. Now, Geobroadcast is a company that's been a part of the LBMA family for a number of years now, based in the Chicago area. And they're in the radio business. And when I talk about radio, I'm talking about terrestrial radio, not streaming. And they are in a bit of a legal battle right now, where 49 state broadcast associations have come out against Geobroadcast Solutions on a proposal that they have in front of the FCC that would allow FM boosters to broadcast targeted content. By that I mean geo-targeted content for 5 minutes or less per hour. and the NAB is campaigning against this. So, little quick backstory on this. So, Geobroadcast developed a small cell type tower solution that they had tested some years ago with a fair amount of success, that enables you to take a terrestrial radio signal and then break that signal down into four, quadrants, let's call it. And in those, sort of quadrants across a single terrestrial signal, you can then geo-target different ad content into the different areas. So obviously, here at the LBMA, we talk about geo-targeting and geofencing, across the board, and this is mainstream when it comes to mobile and, even TV now. But in radio, this is still new technology, and what we have here is, innovation, technology that works, that essentially enables geo-targeting to happen on terrestrial radio, but you have the sort of mainstream, sort of owners and operators, of these networks and the big stations saying, no, we don't want to allow this because essentially we don't have control of this technology, and it's out of the realm and in the private sector. So it's interesting, like, that there's this legal battle going on. The FCC, this is before them right now for approval, but you have a huge group of state broadcast associations, the NAB, and at the center of this is iHeartRadio, which is fighting this type of innovation going forward. So I think it's interesting. I'm hopeful, as an industry, as a location-based industry, that innovation and technology like what Geobroadcast has in the market here, can succeed and can find a footing and start to scale. Because I think, especially when it comes to local radio and small radio, having the ability to geo-target, it makes a ton of sense. I think it makes a lot of sense for local advertisers. You have geo-targeting on virtually every other form of media out there, web, TV, out of home, Google ads, Facebook ads, all of that can be geo-targeted. Why can't we do this on radio? And so I'm, as I said, I'm hopeful for these guys that, they're able to get the ear of the right people at the FCC and get this, approved. But it looks like they're fighting an uphill battle. Any thoughts from you on that, Brianna?
Yeah, I mean, it all comes down to money, right? This is a money play,
Yeah.
and it's actually absurd. As you mentioned, the fact that this is available on all other digital medias, that we can geo-target, and we do as an industry. I think that's valuable to both the advertisers and the consumers. I think about the radio stations I listen to here being just outside of the city, and maybe where I go and the information that I receive and the advertising that I receive should be different and should be tailored to me versus someone who lives just in Manhattan, right? Because their interests and where they're willing to go is going to be very different than where I'm willing to go on a day-to-day basis. So I don't think that their issue paper, in terms of the issues that they cited, are valuable at all. I think they're actually counterintuitive to both advertisers and consumers, and it's strictly for the benefit of the bigger and larger corporations, as usual.
Yeah. As usual, yeah. So let's holding out hope here, and just want to shout out to these guys, encourage them to keep fighting the good fight, and we want to see these types of technologies succeed. And as we do any kind of innovation, that's in and around location-based content or media, and geo-targeting. So let's keep us updated, guys, if there's more that's coming on this, and we'll be watching as well. So that's our show for this week. 4 stories there, a bit of an update as well on our friends at the SocialShelf. Thank you for sharing some numbers on the success of your pilots. And you've been listening and watching episode number 578 of Location Weekly. We thank you as always for your time. Please reach out if you have story ideas. If you're in the UK right now, or in New York, like Brianna is, or up here in Toronto, or anywhere else, right now that's dealing with extreme heat. Stay cool, find some shelter, eat some ice cream, whatever is going to help you out. And, we'll see you next week with another show. Take care, everybody. Bye.
Bye.